signal when we're live. Thank you. Like say so. We're live?
We're live.
Okay, we're live. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We have a quorum, so we'll get started. Welcome to the February 12th, 2026 meeting of the Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee here in the Maryland General Assembly, House of Delegates. I'm Delegate Robin Lewis, Chair of the Subcommittee. Thanks to everyone for joining us. The very brightest and best of the House are convened here to make better transportation policy for all Marylanders, to move goods and access and all that good stuff. So thank you for joining us while we do that. Quickly, I'd like to say thank you to my Chief of Staff, Liefke Haas, who's running the Zoom and will make sure that we move smoothly through all the operations of this virtual meeting. Thank you, Liefke. I also want to acknowledge and thank our policy analyst, Council Patrick Tracy, who's in the Zoom room right here with us to help us along. I'd like to just share a few norms, as this is our first virtual subcommittee meeting of the 2026 session. This is a work session for members of the subcommittee. However, if members so request, we will welcome outside experts, advocates to answer direct questions upon request of members. But this is a work session for members, not a bill hearing. So to my colleagues, if there's an expert in the room and you want to ask them a question, please signify, and I will recognize the outside expert who will then speak and do their best to answer your questions. I would ask our visitors, outside experts, to please keep your cameras off unless you are asked a direct question. So thank you. Now, just so everyone who's watching understands, all members of the House serve on more than one subcommittee, and sometimes we have members who have to jump back and forth, who may be a little late or have to leave early, but we make accommodation for that. I just want to make sure the public knows we're all here doing our very best, working hard for you. And just because you may not see a member in the Zoom room doesn't mean they aren't working their neck off for you. I see Delegate Todd Morgan just got out of his bill hearing.
No, I didn't. I came up for this because the bill hearing is going on too long downstairs.
Is that so? Well, if you
I may jump out to leave sometime.
If you have to leave, that is perfectly okay. We'll understand.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. We'll go ahead and get started with our agenda. Liefke, would you please pull up the agenda on your share screen? And what I'd like to do is just go over this so that everyone in the room can see it and the public can see what we're working on. So today, February 12th, 2026, we'll be looking at 6 bills, working on them. House Bill 23, which is an ID card issuance to minors bill. House Bill 30, it's a public safety bill about police initiated towing, altering existing statute for that. House Bill 55, speed monitoring systems, basically expanding speed monitoring to residential districts statewide. House Bill 58, it's about paratransit services and facilitating cross-jurisdiction paratransit service. House Bill 107, Intelligent Speed Assistance Pilot Program bill, very interesting. And then House Bill 177, which is about bicycles, play vehicles, and other modes of people-powered machinery mobility on crosswalks. So we're going to work on these bills, and if the subcommittee is so desirous, we will take action. But at the very least, we will discuss each of these bills. So let's get started. House Bill 23, Motor Vehicle Administration, ID cards issuance to minors. This is a bill that is designed to remove barriers to the state MVA, Maryland Vehicle Administration, when they issue ID cards for young people, minors, who can't meet the requirements in regulation right now. So I would ask, I was going to ask Patrick to walk us through the key features of the bill, but Patrick, would you be able to do that for us?
Well, the main thing on the bill, we had this bill last year, I think most people remember it, was that they can't require a parent or guardian to co-sign for the ID card. And then they set out a laundry list that administration regulations would have to accept for somebody who's between 15 and 18 to get an ID card, including a school enrollment records, documentation from homeless services provider, court documents, child welfare agency records, health insurance documents. And so on. What we got to figure out, I think, on this bill, depending on what the subcommittee's desire is the sponsor and the kid that they helped last year seemed to think that this is a systemic problem that could happen to others, which if it is a problem. Whereas I believe MVA thinks it was a one-off mistake, bad procedure, but that these kids should be able to get the ID cards. I think that's what we got to get to the bottom of, really.
Okay, thank you. So,
and for the record, I should say that the bill, different from last year, also authorizes the kids to get non-compliant ID cards that wouldn't be real ID compliant, just like they do with driver's licenses.
thank you. So, yeah, the thing that is interesting about this bill, it would authorize MVA to issue these non-compliant IDs to minors at least 15 years of age if unable to provide documentation that satisfies the requirements for the Federal Real ID Act. So I'd like to open the floor to discussion. And if any members, and we ask visitors and experts to turn their cameras off unless they're asked a direct question. So Ms. O'Keefe, this is a meeting of subcommittee members and experts are asked to keep their cameras off. Thank you. I see Delegate Healy's hand up and then Delegate Long. Delegate Healy?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to be really absolutely clear that this is about identification cards and not driver's licenses.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Long?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm trying to wrap my head around this bill. I don't want to belabor this, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear. So last year, I'm having a hard time recalling what the opposition was, but this year I am trying to ensure that we are aware of just maybe like some MVA thing. I'm confused, and forgive me for saying this publicly, but the MVA maybe should give some data or some stats, or but just saying that it's not
Right.
is sufficient.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Delegate. This is the place where we all get unconfused. So questions are welcome, and this is why we're here. So thank you. Patrick, could you help us? I think we were expecting a little bit more input from MVA. How is this different than this bill, different than last year's exactly?
I believe the main differences are in that they list out certain documents and provide for the non-compliant, the non-real ID compliant card. I would like to get, I don't think we were planning to vote on this bill today. I'd like to get from MVA a list of what if this situation happened 2 years ago, if it happens tomorrow, what would they expect from a 15-year-old? And what would they accept? And
Right.
what would they accept, but only for a non-compliant card? Let's ask. I'll ask MVA that, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Okay, because the bill does enumerate some alternative proof of residency that a minor could bring forward: school enrollment records, report cards, transcripts issued by a public or private school, documentation from a homeless services provider, shelter, or social service agency that verifies residency, court documents, child welfare agency records, health insurance documents, and if accompanied by sufficient documentation establishing proof of an adult sort of witnesses residence, a notarized affidavit signed by the adult with whom the minor resides, attesting to their residence. So as best I can recall, in our testimony, going back to this bill, don't recall MVA's position. So Patrick, you want us to get their position on this?
Well,
I'm just going back to look.
They supported the bill.
I'm going back to look.
Yeah, I don't think they had a position.
Yeah, just a letter of information was submitted.
I
So
saw something that said they supported the bill.
I'm looking at a letter of information.
Witness list says information.
I see testimony in support of. Is that person not with MVA? I mean, is
With
that,
MDOT had a letter of concern.
okay, I'm confused now.
Okay. I have just been advised that we have with us Miss Lisa Nisley
Lisa
from
Nisley.
NBA on the call. Nisley. Ms. Nisley, as you are here, I'd like to ask you to help us understand MVA's position on the bill and clarify.
Hello. Hi, I'm sitting with MDTA. We are in the bunker together, so that's why the everything
We
is
can't really see you. Your screen is covered.
there we go. Okay.
There we
is that better?
go. Okay, and your screen name says M. O'Keefe.
Right.
But
So
you're-
I'm with
okay.
MDTOA, but I am also logged on as Lisa
Okay,
Nisley. We're
Lisa.
together.
I know you very well, Lisa. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So can you help us out?
Yeah. So this bill aims to address an issue that came up with a constituent of the delegates last year, which we were able to fix without any law changes. So basically, there are minors that come in who maybe have less traditional home situations, or living with relatives who aren't on their birth certificate, et cetera, et cetera. But in all of the cases we are aware of, we have been able to find a way to get them into compliance with Real ID law without any changes. However, I know that signature thing was a real sticking point for the delegate, the fact that that exists. So we sent a letter of commitment to her today, and I sent it along to you and Patrick, but this was during committee, so you may not have seen it yet, saying that we can change by policy and no longer require that signature to be a part of the process. So that's part one. The other thing with all of the documents, I would just again state that we have never had a case where we weren't able to help someone find the right documents and get into compliance. So there are certain ones that are non-negotiable according to the federal government, and anything that we do accept, we have to get approval from them. So we have a process that's been certified. We are going through recertification, so we are, looking at things with them now that we may or may not add. But overall, we think the process for the documents is working. We do have a list that I can get to you. We are a lot more flexible with students. We do allow some of these things that are on the list in terms of school records and doctor's records, all of those things that kids tend to have that adults, have different things. The last thing I would just want to mention is that this non-compliant piece is difficult for teens, even if this passed the way it's written now. they would still need to show 2 years of tax returns, which most minors who are, 15 or so don't have 2 years of tax returns. So we still wouldn't be allowed to issue them a non-compliant real ID unless they also had the tax returns, which isn't mentioned in this bill. So I just wanted to put that out there. But the letter we sent today says that we will, by policy, change our regs so that you don't need to have a signature to get the ID right now.
Great. You're correct. Did not see that letter because we were in committee.
Yes.
But I'm so
Yeah.
happy that you flagged that for us. We'll make sure to take a look at that. But if I'm hearing you right, just to paraphrase, you said that MVA's position is that they will work, first of all, you work with young people who don't have compliant ID to help them access records to get in compliance. So you can issue a compliant ID, you help them.
Mhm.
You also said that you're willing to work with, well, in addition to working with students, actually, you have to remind me, what was the second part you said you would do?
So we usually are able to find a path forward for students and adults who come in and don't have the traditional documents. That hasn't, sometimes we have to get creative, but over time, we've been able to help people with that. The other point is we can just by policy change the signature piece. And then I'm a little bit concerned about the expectation that we would issue a non-compliant real ID or ID based on this bill, because it would still not address the fact that teens would have to produce tax returns that they likely don't have.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? Jeffrey, did that help you? Clarify for you? I see Delegate Odom's hand up. Delegate Odom?
You're on mute.
We can't hear you, Delegate Odom. You want to unmute yourself?
Apologize. Thank you, Madam Chair. Any other edification of the bill would be welcome. All right. But I did want to point out one thing from one of my assistants that shared with me in discussing this bill, how it would have been advantageous for them being a son or daughter of a military member. That individual indicated that their parent was overseas, so therefore the parent was not available and the other parent was simply not available at all. So in that case, that individual had to, I don't think they were able to receive identification and had to wait to the age of 18. So I hope that any consideration further would address situations similar to that, because that's just one incident of probably many where it would be advantageous to have a bill or legislation that would address those sort of needs.
Thank you for sharing that. It does raise the question, how many young people are affected by a similar situation who don't have a delegate to go and tell, who don't have someone to ask to help them. I'm just wondering, MVA says they'll help young people and adults, but how many people never ask for help that get lost in the cracks? Hard to say. Okay. Any other commentary here? So I get the feeling that this is a bill we might want to give some more thought to. I'm glad that MVA was here. Thank you. And they clarified a few things for us, but it does sound like the issue of that for MVA, an obstacle, a clear and present obstacle, is that this bill would authorize them to issue non-compliant IDs. So if no members have strong feelings about this, I'm happy to have us come back, keep talking, and give it some more deliberation. How does that sound? All right, Patrick. So I think we'll put this bill aside for now and come back to it and not take any action on it today. Great, thanks guys, very efficient. We'll move on to the next bill. That's House Bill 30, Public Safety, Department of State Police, police-initiated towing alterations. Patrick, can you talk us through the highlights of this one?
Well, this bill tacks on to the medium and heavy duty towing bill we did a few years ago. And it requires, it adds in light duty towing for the rate setting by the Department of State Police with the guidance from the Committee on Rate Setting that the legislation set up. And the way this bill is drafted, I do have a few questions about it too. I know we do have Andrea Mansfield on. She represents the towers.
I think there were some amendments that were being considered. Okay, so thank you, Patrick. I think everyone, with the exception of me and Delegate Odom, most of you are familiar with the towing commission and the updated policies that have been championed by the committee. And this is a refinement of what's been done by the Environment Transportation Committee on towing matters. So let's see if members have questions or need clarification. You can raise your hand or unmute yourself, ask to be recognized.
Madam Chair, can I say something real quick?
You are recognized. Yes.
I think we do have amendments that the towers are happy with now. Like
Okay.
literally just got them. But
Can you
Andrea
talk
did
about
email
them?
me and say it was that they like them. But I think there's additional amendments that are needed. Specifically, it's in the fiscal note noted that it's not clear whether this, and I'm not even sure if this is supposed to apply to just commercial vehicles or all light duty tows, which would include your car, my car. Well, you don't have a car, but everyone else's car, my car, and the like. Which under the language of the bill that would apply, but the bill also does still reference commercial vehicles. So I'm not sure about that. We want to double check that. And then I have a question, and maybe Andrea can help. Does the committee still meet? I know it's still in the books in terms of the statute, but does it still meet, or would we be reconstituting it?
Thanks. I'll ask Ms. Mansfield if you would come on and help answer that question for us.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for the question, Patrick. Yes, the committee still does meet. They haven't met since, I want to say, winter of last year, probably, on some matters, but they are planning to meet again this interim. So yeah, they still are meeting.
Good to know. They're still in the books, so that's not a concern in terms of the bill. But and then there's one last issue, is that the way the bill is written, the previous bill on the state police were required to take recommendations from the committee, which I believe they did. But that's not the case in this case. So these are just language fixes that I would have to make, but I want to make the subcommittee aware of them. And I think state police has brought them up too.
Okay. So members, any questions? Clarification? All right. So it sounds like our next step is to keep working on this bill. Well, you have some amendments in hand. Another one possibly coming to address the issue of commercial vehicles. It doesn't sound like we need to change anything. The towing commission exists and will continue to exist. It's not sunsetting or anything.
I believe not, no.
Okay. So, and I did talk with Ms. Mansfield about this the other day, or maybe it was just yesterday. Seems like a year ago, yesterday. And we know that the towing commission, or committee rather, is working well. There's a good, strong partnership with state police, that the committee is fine with altering fees to include light duty towing, an adjustment, or a more equitable adjustment for light duty vehicles. And that we do, as I recall my notes, Ms. Mansfield, there was some concern about insurance and how towers get made whole in the event that the vehicle they tow is out of state. A Maryland-based tower tows a vehicle from out of state and that vehicle doesn't pay the invoice for the towing. I think that was a concern you had. And while you're here, if you would tell the subcommittee a little bit more about that concern.
Yes, great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes. So in addition to the amendments to incorporate light duty towing and the setting of those rates, which yes, it is my client's expectation that yes, those rates would apply across all vehicles, like the vehicles that we're driving and so forth as well. But yes, the two insurance issues that they have been running into is dealing with vehicles that are insured and registered out of state. That if there is a dispute, the insurance administration does not have jurisdiction over those matters. And the other is the potential of insurance coverage not being high enough to cover all the costs if the towers also needs to clean up the cargo and the debris and things along the roadways. In fact, these issues actually came up a couple of years ago when this towing committee was created. And we thought that the committee would look at these issues. So we just, since we were making some additional changes here, we incorporated those issues into the charge of the committee. So it will be to examine and report on those matters. And that language has been shared with Maryland Motor Truck, as well as the what's the name of this, American Property and State Casualty Insurance Association, and they have not expressed. They said they're fine with the amendments and examining those issues.
Okay, and those are the
Thank you.
amendments that we have now. Okay.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Great. Any discussion? Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Mansfield. This is helpful. It sounds like we've got some helpful amendments, but we might need to spend a little more time on this one. Patrick, does that sound about right?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, thanks, Ms. Mansfield. We will move on to the next bill on our agenda. And that's House Bill 55, Vehicle Laws, Speed Monitoring Systems, Residential Districts. Patrick, can you walk us through the highlights?
I think you just did it.
I did. The title is the bill.
It expands the current local programs that in 3 counties cover school zones and residential districts, and it expands the authority for the locals to do speed camera programs in residential districts statewide. Doesn't mandate anything.
So this is enabling legislation.
Enabling legislation, correct.
And where are the advocates on this one? MML and MACO.
Oh, therefore.
And others. Okay, so colleagues, this is enabling legislation that allows all of our jurisdictions to expand speed monitoring camera enforcement. A lot of us already have that in our jurisdictions, and our counterparts would like to have it as well.
And this is legislation that passed the committee in the House last year.
Passed the committee in the House last year, stalled in the Senate, I take it, got slowed down over there. All right, so any questions? Delegate Allen and then Delegate Healy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Patrick, do you remember the version last year? Did it have any language in it directing the revenue from these monitoring systems to go a certain direction? Well,
that's current law. It would go to the current law direction, which is highway and pedestrian safety.
Okay, so MTBMA's concerns are already addressed, is what you're saying?
Well, I think they want to expand that a bit.
Got it. Okay.
Into infrastructure and the like, which of course is what they do. But no, I don't think that addresses their.
Okay, no, I misunderstood the letter. I understand what you're saying. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right, Delegate Healy.
Yeah, I just want to speak up and say I think this is a good idea that, for one thing, if we enable it to be adopted at the local level, we won't have to deal with this bill over and over and over again. As each county comes forward and says, I'd like it to. So, and have to do it through legislation. This is just enabling the locals to make that decision for themselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate. Any other questions? It sounds like the subcommittee is supportive of this bill. Are there any other questions at all? Concerns?
Move the
Alright.
bill, Madam Chair.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Great. Having been properly moved and seconded, the bill has the bill in its current form passes the subcommittee. Thank you very much, members. We just passed our first bill out of subcommittee. All right, thank you. Let's go on to the next one. House Bill 58, Transportation Article, Paratransit Service, Interjurisdictional Routes. It just so happens the sponsor of this one is in the Zoom room with us right now, but let's take a minute and ask Patrick, should you please walk us through the highlights? If you
Well,
would.
this is fairly simple in concept. It just requires local transportation programs, not state, local, that receive state funding to include interjurisdictional paratransit routes between medical facilities and the like. And the sponsor may have more that she wants to add, but that's the gist of the bill.
Thank you, Patrick. May I call on the bill sponsor, Delegate Healy, just with a few highlights of the bill's intent and a clarification of its mechanism.
Okay, sure. Well, the goal is to have people to be able to get to their medical treatments, and right now we have paratransit, and the state is funding it, but it's not really effective for people who have to go across county lines. And a lot of times, because of the way our hospital system is structured, certain specialties are only available in certain locations, and sometimes that's hard, if not impossible, for some people to get to their places. So we're already spending the money. I just think that if we could do it better to reach the goal of having people be able to get to their medical treatments and so forth. And so that's the idea. That's the goal. And having it adjusted to the various hospital systems that we have, like 6 major hospital systems, instead of just having it tied just to within a very narrow area near a train station, makes it, I think, more accessible for more people. I know it's at this point, it's really looking at a policy change more than it is beefing up with money, because we don't have money this year. But at least to make the policy change so that when money becomes available in the future, it's spent more wisely to help people reach their goals of getting their health care taken care of.
Thank you. And really, it's sort of a health access bill, and it focuses on supporting the most vulnerable who may need specialty care to access that care for better health outcomes. We've done so much in the state of Maryland to expand access to health insurance coverage. We've reduced our uninsured rate from 13% to 16%. I mean, we've done so much, but if you can't get to a provider to get that care, then it's kind of moot, and we've left people behind a bit. So thank you for bringing the bill and for explaining that for us again. I see Delegate Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question for the sponsor, if that's all right.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Delegate Healy, obviously, like the chair said, absolutely important, an important issue, important things to address. Did you have any discussions with or any proposed solutions to Mako's concerns for the bill? I to be completely honest, I'm not super sold on what Mako's arguing that could incur additional costs, but is there anything that we could possibly add to the bill, or any tweaks we could make that would ensure that, in a year that everyone is feeling the budget and we're about to put a lot more on our counties. Is there any way we can ensure that we're not putting anything additional on the county's plate with this?
Well, I'm kind of, my personal opinion is that I think that Mako has misunderstood what I'm trying to do here. Um, I there are a lot of counties in Mako. I mean, there are 24 counties. A lot of them don't have any paratransit because they're so rural. There are no train tracks anywhere in those counties. And the rural areas are certainly left out of the current situation. I think that my bill actually would give them an opportunity to work with other counties to develop a way to use this money productively and actually serve their people better. So I disagree with them, but you know, they didn't ask me. I have not had a conversation with them. So, but I think that you know, at Mako is all 24 jurisdictions, and I think that certainly the ones that I know of where I live in Prince George's County, and because we have some of the best hospitals in the world, but they're in Baltimore or they're in Anne Arundel. We have and where I live, personally, I've kind of become, my neighborhood has kind of become a healthcare desert. I can get, there have been 3 hospitals that have closed within the 3 closest to where I live have closed in the last few years, or well, one of them closed many years ago, but as because medicine is being done differently and there's regional hospitals and places where people go, and we're not keeping up with those changes as far as transportation goes to get people to their medical care. I hope that answered
Your question, Delegate?
Yes, no, that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was more asking if, you know, again, seeing that everyone else was either favorable or favorable with amendments. I just didn't know if Mako had proposed any solution to you for their concerns. It doesn't sound like it.
They haven't reached out to me personally. No, I haven't had a conversation with them. Only
Okay.
saw what they said in the testimony.
Okay, thank you.
And the heart of their opposition, based on the testimony, seems to be concern that costs would increase for local jurisdictions. Paratransit program costs would increase. Thank you. Delegate Morgan, you're back.
I am
Did you
back.
get through your
Thank you.
hearing?
I got my hearing done. It was fine. Thank you. All 3 minutes I got. I can concur. I asked our paratransit folks in St. Mary's County what the effect of this bill would be. And they concurred with Mako from the point of view that from St. Mary's County, if we have to get specialized treatment up in the Washington, D.C. area or the Baltimore area, it's a hike. And we do a good job with our paratransit locally to work within St. Mary's and Calvert counties. Not so much Charles, but the problem becomes if, however, the math gets worked out at the end of the day, it's going to be a formula. And we know how the formula-driven process works. And the concern that our transit authority people were saying is that there may not be enough money to cover the costs. And where's the rest of the money going to come from the affordability point of view of what the counties are already being asked to pick up from us at the end of the day. So that's just my 2 cents for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that on the ground insight. And we're talking about rural counties, but we need to hear from them. And you've helped us get the full picture. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? It sounds like a concern with this bill would be the opposition from locals. And I don't remember if we have a fiscal note on this one. I think we can take a look.
There's no state fiscal note.
Yeah. So wouldn't affect revenues. But it does say in the fiscal note, the bill's requirements can be handled using existing budgeted resources at the state level. However, local governments may incur additional costs, which Delegate Morgan referred to. I think in the bill, I'm just looking at the language. It does frame the proposal as a kind of requirement. It says the bill requires the county to submit an application for transportation services. It requires the department to, the secretary to adopt procedures. I wonder if a more amenable posture would be enabling, giving locals the option to pursue expanded paratransit services. What do you guys think? I don't know if that could work here, but it might open the door for locals, give them the wherewithal should funds become available in future. It would be great if we had, who do we need here? Delegate Healy, go ahead. I saw your hand.
Yeah, no, the only concern I have with that particular proposal is that for it to work, we have to have the counties agreeing to work across county lines and to help support each other, the residents of more than one county, even if your resident from your county is fine because they live right next door to a really great medical facility. Your county would also help pay for the transit of people to the facility. And so I think I'm trying to get us to break down the barriers to cooperating to do this across county lines and regional areas of the state, so that I think maybe a demonstration project or some kind of opportunity to see how it might work with putting a few, rather than having, because if the ones that have the facilities don't opt in, then it doesn't help much. The burden still falls on the place where the people are coming from and not where the facility is. So I think the idea is for them to share the resources as well as sharing the burden, and to really be more of a one Maryland kind of goal, that we could all work together so that everybody, no matter where they live, can get to their medical facilities to get the care that they need. But I know I see the problem, and I'm hoping this is the beginning of a good conversation that among all of the people on our committee, especially, somebody like yourself that has a medical background, having been on the health committee and worked in public health, might be able to see a way to do this, because this is, for me, this is the beginning of the conversation. I'm open to if somebody's got a better idea, but I don't want people to be in silos. I mean, that's one of the things that's the problem, is that if you're in the DC area, you can't have access to Baltimore. If you're in the Baltimore area, you can't get access to things in the DC area. And Anne Arundel sometimes is available to both, but not always. So and then the Eastern Shore, sometimes they need helicopters to get people to their medical. So that's a whole other world. I'm not talking about those kind of things, just average everyday people. And I want to add one little thing also. The bill that we heard today about people being at risk of losing their driver's licenses because they have sleep apnea.
Mhm.
I mean, that just another barrier to transportation issues. So I really hope that we can find a way to fix and address this problem with a policy change. The reason that there's no more money attached to this is because there's no more money available. But we could have a delayed effective date for something, and we could, get some money designated for doing a demonstration project, some with a couple of different counties, 2 or 3 that are in different regions, to work together.
Mm.
Something.
Or
Thank
maybe look at how other states perhaps handle this. There may be lessons, best practices from other places.
That would be great.
Reinvent the
Yep.
wheel. I'm also thinking about the testimony from Disability Rights Maryland. They were favorable with amendment, and their request was to actually refine the bill with a little bit more direction to require that jurisdictions include what's referred to as fixed hang on, let me get the language
Demand
here.
response.
Yeah, fixed demand response, particularly for folks with disabilities, or it could be really anyone needing specialized care, to have the right to paratransit service on demand. Or complimentary. This is a great idea that needs some work. Access to healthcare is what we call in public health a social determinant of health. It's not literal laying on of hands by a provider, but it's part of the broader ecosystem, the social and physical infrastructure that serves to improve health. And we need a solution. These things are complex. So I'd recommend if the subcommittee is willing to keep talking about this. Oh, before I do that, Delegate Odom, your hand was up. What were you going to say?
I was simply going to say real quickly, not to repeat everything that Delegate Healy and Madam Chair you expressed, but I certainly is in agreement with all that's been said, because it can be somewhat challenging, even within my own jurisdiction, for people that have special situations and some that may not have the special situations. Transportation can still be a challenge. So when you compound that with going merely across the line to another jurisdiction, it makes the situation more of a challenge. So I think a collective discussion along that line and some solution that I'm sure we can probably find that will aid in that would be a real tremendous help to this.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate. All right. With that, are there any more comments or questions? Then I would suggest, oh, hi, Delegate Ziegler, you got to pop in. You're welcome. We know that members have hearings and we understand that folks are doing their best to be here. We're just finishing conversation on House Bill 58. So given all of the discussion thus far, it sounds like this is a bill subcommittee is willing to give a little further attention to. I would invite Delegate Healy, the sponsor, to the extent, I know you've already spoken to stakeholders, but perhaps a follow-on conversation with MACO might yield some new ideas. Delegate Odom seems interested in working through ideas. If that sounds agreeable, then why don't we give this bill a little more time? Okay, terrific. Patrick, we're going to give House Bill 58 a little more time and come back to it. All right. Thank you, guys. Doing great. We'll move on to House Bill 107, Motor Vehicle Article, Intelligent Speed Assistance System Pilot Program Establishment. Let's get the highlights on House Bill 107. Patrick?
Well, this is modeled after the, forgot what it's called, well, okay. It's the Intelligent Speed Assistant Pilot Program. And basically, if your license is suspended by MVA for accumulation of points, they would mandate, actually, the bill mandates that you participate in the program, in which case you would be able to drive while your license is suspended. You would have a restriction on your license saying that you have to drive with this. It's not the same thing the sponsor's on. He could probably explain the distinction. It's not quite a governor, but it's a speed restrictor on a motor vehicle for a certain period. One big difference between this and the drunk driving program is that is mandated by courts, and this is an administrative process mandated by MVA.
Thanks, Patrick. And we are lucky to have the bill sponsor in the room with us. Delegate Allen, would you like to say a few words about your intent and how the bill works?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, sorry, I keep switching back and forth. My internet is atrocious over here for some reason. So everyone can hear me all right, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the intent here is to use this technology to number one, keep people safer. We know about 75% of people whose licenses are suspended because they're super speeders, they keep driving anyway. So this is a way to keep people, if they're going to keep driving, this is going to
this is a way to physically make them drive safer. Um, And the second piece to this is it allows people to keep driving to get to work, to pay their bills, to take their kids to school, to get to medical appointments. So it's a way of making sure people retain, especially if they're in more rural areas like Delegate Healy was talking about, it allows people to maintain that independence while still, again, being safer. So that's the intent. It's a pilot. It has no fiscal note because it pays for itself. The person, when they sign up for this program, has to pay the monthly cost of this technology being installed in their vehicle. And yeah, just let me know what questions anybody has.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate. I have a quick question. I seem to recall that because the bill enumerates the terms under which the violations that would qualify the person for suspension or revocation of driver's license, that they're enumerated, that was maybe more detail than was needed. And I feel like I have a note to ask MVA about that. So since I see MVA is here, Lisa, Miss Nisley, you're still here. Would you be able to address that? And Matt is also here. Thank you. Could you
Yes,
help
we're
us?
all together now.
Terrific.
So I couldn't hear you well. I think you were asking about what you and the administrator talked about with the way the statutes were put in there. It was referring to the section of the statute that talks about points that are assigned. And we thought a cleaner way to list that would be to list the actual part where the different types of excuse me, we thought it would be better to list what they're violating, not what the points are. So I sent a list to the sponsor and Patrick earlier this afternoon. I know Patrick saw it because he responded. Delegate Allen, you may not have seen it yet because it was pretty late in the day. But we have a cleaner way to do that. Same outcome, but a little bit cleaner.
Okay, so it's not an objection to the enumeration of violations, but just a little bit clearer language, more streamlined.
Yeah, people wouldn't have to go back and reference the other part of the statute to understand the violations.
Yeah,
So
I think
that's-
that's pretty easily fixable.
And that's an amendment that is offered. Okay, I see Delegate Morgan's hand up. Let's get to Delegate Morgan. Please go ahead. We can't hear you yet. Uh-oh.
I apologize. Thank you, Madam Chair. And Delegate Allen, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I understand sort of the mechanics. So if you have been convicted a number of times and you want to get in this program, per se, there would be something in the car that limits you to the speed that you're going to be going. Have I got that part so far correct?
Go ahead, Delegate.
I'm sorry. Again, my internet went out again. Can you say that real quick?
Yeah, my
One more time,
question
Delegate
is,
Morgan.
I understand the basic premise in the beginning of this is that there was some sort of a governor or device that would control the speed that you're going on a road. Got that part. How does the device know what the speed is on the road if you're going, say, from a residential area, you're getting to get on the beltway, you get off the beltway in a residential street? How does it know that it's changing? And how does that tie in then to the machine in the car? So can you help me?
Yeah. So it works basically like remember, 10 or 15 years ago, everyone had like the TomTom GPSs. It's a lot like that, but better. It's like, again, normally when you're driving a GPS or on your phone, you're navigating on your phone, and there's a little thing in the top corner that shows you what the speed limit is where you're driving. Typically, there's a little bit of a lag. There's like, maybe a 3 to 5 second lag. This has absolutely no lag. When I was driving it, it was really impressive. Like when I was driving on Rowell Boulevard, it knew exactly when I crossed from the 35 miles an hour to the 40 miles an hour line, basically. So The short answer to your question is GPS. That's the way it does it. It's very accurate. The device itself is, again, it's kind of phone-like or again, Garmin GPS-like in that it's in the car, it's installed like on your dash or on your center console. So it displays what the speed limit is where it's reading it right now. So like again, if I'm driving down Rail Boulevard and the speed limit on that street in that area is 40 miles an hour, it will display that as like the current speed limit, and then it'll also display what your current speed is.
But it doesn't you are still regulating the speed of your car, correct?
It is, well, you are, except there's a threshold. So if the speed limit is, and we talked about this a little bit in the committee as well. So again, let's say the speed limit's 40 miles an hour. If the GPS is installed, and you can, depending on how it's installed, there's different variances. So let's say they put it in for like a 5 mile an hour variance. So if I'm driving down the road and it's a 40 mile an hour speed limit, and the variance they put in is like 45, right? So 5 miles an hour. I pedal to the metal physically cannot go over 45.
Okay, gotcha. And there are companies plural that make this. It's not just one company, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great questions, Delegate Morgan. All right, any other questions?
Can I ask the sponsor a question real quick?
Yes, of course, Patrick.
First of all, the term I was looking for was ignition interlock program. It's mirrored off of that in the drunk driving statute. But I wanted to ask the sponsor, did you intend for this to be mandatory if you get your license suspended through the point system, or permissive in that you could, be allowed to drive? Because the way the bill is drafted is that if you don't do it, then you're suspended indefinitely, whereas your suspension might just be for 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think that the choice is, again, either you do the program or it's suspended. I don't know. Do you, I don't know if you know, or maybe the MVA can tell us when you accumulate those points for, again, the infractions that we're going to enumerate, is that suspension indefinite in those cases?
That would be great to answer.
Are they still on?
Yeah, MVA still there. Go ahead.
So my understanding is that usually the first suspension is for 3 months. I think that if you've accumulated more points all at once or whatever the case is, it could be longer, but you're going 3 months. And this program would, I believe, have you in it for a year the way it's drafted. Some of that stuff is a policy call. So you would be saying, okay, instead of a 3 month of no license, you can have a year with the speed governor, and hopefully you're adjusting behavior over a year. If you make it mandatory, of course, people have to enter the program. You would need to address the idea that maybe some people don't have their own vehicle, so they don't have the ability to serve it that way. So you would have to decide, well, what kind of suspension are they taking? And mandatory versus voluntary, again, a policy call for you, but you would have to consider that if it's voluntary and the suspension is 3 months, but it's a year on the speed governor, that might influence their decision of which they do. So just things for you to consider.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's kind of up to the subcommittee, but I will say my intent, again, I don't want the 3 month suspension to look like a better option than a year with this device. Like if that person's going to continue driving anyway, then I want as many people to participate in the pilot as possible. So, maybe we can, again, it's up to the subcommittee. Maybe we can, say it's a year suspension or a year with the device, something like that. But again, it's up to the subcommittee.
Thanks for that discussion. So what I'm hearing is the terms of the intervention, whether it's a suspension or a period of time with a mandated use of the speed governor, the administration, MVA, will have the option to impose one or the other or both. I think doesn't it make sense to model this pilot on existing programs. I think MVA was just saying. I think we want to learn from and build on what you guys already do rather than impose some new difficult, complicated approach. So MVA, could you speak to that? Wouldn't you rather, if this bill becomes law, wouldn't you rather administer it in a way that's similar to the ignition interlock program?
I can get back to you on the specifics. I can tell you that currently, if you are suspended, you are allowed to, well, there's actually a bill on this year, a process bill, but you would, if you were suspended, you're allowed to go to the court and ask to be in the ignition interlock program, and that is granted by a judge if you are over the age of 21.
For how
So
long?
you do have the option to, you're suspended, enter ignition interlock. This is a little different in that it's a pilot, so we would need to make some decisions about how that logistically works.
But for how long? How long does the judge tell you to use the?
If you enter for the same amount of time, you would be suspended in that case.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. A little nuance there. Any thoughts, colleagues? Sponsor? Patrick, what do you think? Should we, it sounds like there's at least one amendment we've already discussed, and that's to list out the violations in more plain English. So that's Amendment 1, and everybody seems okay with that. And then the
Yeah,
second.
I think Lisa, myself, and the sponsor probably should have a chat.
Okay, that sounds like a good next step.
That's
All right.
fine with me, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Great. Give it your best attention. Okay, thank you so much. All right, colleagues, thanks for the discussion on House Bill 107. We'll move on to the last bill on the list, House Bill 177, vehicle laws, bicycles, play vehicles, and unicycles on crosswalks. Patrick, can you walk us through the highlights of this one?
Yeah.
If you would be so kind. I will just say the committee passed this bill out in 2025, last year. Seems
Correct.
like 20 years ago, but it was just a year ago. And this is a bill, this is another, traffic safety bill, human-centered mobility safety, so that everybody can get around. And again, you guys passed it before. Or I was there too, so I passed it too.
This is a new term that we might want to learn from last year, the leading pedestrian interval. If you've ever, they're not everywhere, they tend to be in urban areas, but if you've ever been at a light and it's your turn to turn green, but the walk light turns on first before the green light goes, that gives pedestrians the lead, chance to get out there, chance to be visible. And it, by all testimony we've seen, it has, where used, definitely reduced pedestrian injuries. What this bill would do is it would allow bicycles to, when the walk sign is on, to start going, because they're vehicles, they're supposed to follow the green light. Wait a second, I think I got that a little bit wrong. Hold on. Yeah, they can enter the intersection when the walk sign comes on. They don't have to wait for the green. Technically, under the law, they do have to wait for the green right now.
So basically, a human being on a bike, play vehicle, or unicycle at an intersection facing a red light, right now, they have to act like a motor vehicle and just stop and wait for the light
Correct.
to change in their favor. Whereas the bill is proposing that those human beings traveling with those other sorts of, methods, modes, can act like pedestrians and cross during the pedestrian interval.
And they have to yield the right of way, of course, to pedestrians or other vehicles, bicycles in the crosswalk.
In the crosswalk. Okay. Does everybody kind of understand how that works? Any questions? Yes, Delegate Ziegler.
It's not actually a question. It's just, I wanted to say that this bill makes me nervous in the sense that where we have the right to make a right-hand turn on red, for example, I feel as though the new thing is for cars to just turn right, as if it was just the same as driving straight. They don't slow down. They certainly don't stop. They don't look to see if other cars are turning left on a left turn arrow. It's just, I feel like that's become a really scary thing, and I worry that bicycles and scooters might do the same kind of thing. I find bicycles quite scary sometimes, to be honest with you, because they do go actually really fast. And I just worry that that gets abused, you know, that turning or crossing starts to mean without looking to people or without slowing down. So that's my concern about this.
Well, I would
And maybe
emphasize
that's
that this is
crazy.
not turning. This is just going through the crosswalk.
Right, right. I just mean that I feel like the idea that they would yield to a pedestrian, I just like, would they?
Thank you for flagging those concerns, Delegate. And I think part of the challenge for us at this moment in human transportation history is really figuring out how to keep everyone safe while we're all moving and we're using different modes. And it requires a kind of imaginative shift. And there is a need for more trust, which is why we find ourselves here legislating matters of, human movement, because we haven't figured it out, just working together, but everyone deserves to be safe. You're absolutely right. So I think now this bill did pass last year, and Patrick, I believe it's in the same posture.
Yeah, I believe so.
So how can we make sure to answer Delegate Ziegler's question? Is there,
Well, it wasn't a question. She was just.
it was more of a
expressing her-
comment? Okay. Well, I would say this. My perspective, as someone who walks a lot and uses transit and bikes sometimes, my bike is, both the tires are flat, so I haven't ridden my bike in a while, but I get around in other ways, and I have pretty good perspective, it's my own, but I have pretty good perspective on how people behave using different modes. And I'm personally, this is my perspective. I'm going to share, you shared yours, Delegate. I'm much more afraid of cars than I am of bicycles, because a car turning fast around a corner can kill me. I've never had a negative encounter with a bike, but if someone going fast on a bike knocked you over, you wouldn't die. So that's my first thought. But I would also take us back to the subject of the bill, which is crosswalks. And I think the intent of the bill is to make people safe as they're using the crosswalk, and to give humans who are moving on bicycles, unicycles, play vehicles, the ability to travel on the crosswalk like pedestrians do, following the pedestrian, the advanced signal, and behaving with respect to other folks. That's kind of the implicit expectation, that everybody's respecting each other's safety. I think that's the subject of the bill. That's my sense, and I'd love to hear from others. Thank you, Delegate Jacob, and then Delegate Odom.
All right, the bill passed unanimously last year out of committee. It's in the same posture, isn't it, Patrick?
Oh, so yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Delegate Jacobs. Delegate Odom?
Now, wait a minute.
Oh, sorry, Delegate.
I move favorable on the bill.
All right, we have a motion on the bill.
Second.
Do I hear a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, or is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, Delegate Healy.
Just quickly, I mean, I don't ride a bicycle, but I do walk a lot and I drive. So I recognize Delegate Ziegler's concerns. Because I see a lot of bicyclists who just don't even slow down at stop signs all the time. And so it does give me concern. I've seen like on some kind of paths where you have people who are walking and riding bicycles at the same time. People kind of develop a protocol of their own, sometimes just courtesy that they keep one side to the wheels and one side to the people on foot. But I don't know if we can actually put that into a crosswalk situation. I'm going to support the bill because I did before, and but I do have a sense that everybody has to be more careful on the roads. That's all.
Thank you. Hear, hear. Is there any other further discussion? Is there any opposition? Oh, I'm sorry, Delegate Odom, I saw your hand up. Mhm.
You know, I'm supportive of the bill too, but I asked this question when it was presented at a hearing earlier, and I wasn't clear on it, you know, because different jurisdictions have different regulations or laws relative to bicycle. And the question I asked was in terms of a bicycle that is behind a car or two cars at a traffic light, at a red light, and is a jurisdiction where a bicycle can travel on the sidewalk. I don't know whether they would tend to go from the street to the sidewalk. And in some jurisdictions where they have intersections that have crossing for pedestrians in both directions, whether going parallel to the roadway or perpendicular to the roadway, I'm not sure if that involves any jurisdictions of those that are online. But it just gave me a little pause and confusion as to whether, but of course, this is going to be a jurisdictional or state law. I guess that's a.
So the subject, thank you, Delegate. The subject of this bill is people moving in crosswalks. So I think if we try to focus on the bill and make sure we understand what it does. And Patrick, could you just walk us through one more time so everybody is really clear what the bill that we passed last year does?
Yeah, I'll try to be as clear as I can. All right, we're at a crosswalk, okay, at a red light. The bicycle is traveling in the travel lane. That bicycle is not in the crosswalk. But if they get a leading pedestrian interval and the pedestrians start walking across with the walk sign, the bicycle can proceed to the intersection because nobody's going to be coming the other way. So they're in the roadway, and they can go through with the pedestrians, but they're not barreling through the crosswalk.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That the only thing that I'm still lacking clarity on, and I think is a jurisdictional issue, a bicycle can opt to go onto the sidewalk, correct?
Depends on the jurisdiction.
Yes, and that's where my.
I mean, if the bicycle is allowed on the sidewalk, then go on the sidewalk.
Right, and so that's where, okay, that's enough clarity for me. I'm sorry, hold up process.
No apologies needed.
Thank you.
We're all here to make sure we understand the decisions we're making for our constituents. So your questions are welcome. There's no rush. Some people might feel hungry, but they can wait. We can all hang in there for a minute while you get clear, because this is new subject matter for you too. I do believe your questions are welcome and deserve to get answered. So is there any further discussion? All right, having been properly moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. All right, looks to me like the bill that we passed last year passes again. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, can I ask one thing real quick?
Yes, please.
Go back to the previous bill, Delegate Allen's bill on the speed governors, whatever.
Yes.
The cross-file in the Senate has already been heard, Delegate Allen. Have you gotten any word from them?
No, I thought of that after we'd already moved on to this next bill, Patrick, so I didn't want to slow us down.
Sorry.
But could you do me a huge favor and just kind of send me whatever notes or ideas for amendments we had as a result of this meeting, and I can confer with the cross file and see where they're at.
Okay.
Is that acceptable? I don't mean to get
Yeah.
at Patrick work, Madam Chair.
No, yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you all. I'm so proud of us. We had a great first subcommittee meeting. We moved a bill. We worked on others. I just want to recap for my own sake, and you may appreciate this as well. House Bill 23, the ID cards. We're going to come back to that after some discussion and input from MVA. House Bill 30, the police initiated towing. There's some amendments to look at. We'll come back to this bill. House Bill 50, and stop me if I'm wrong, Patrick. House Bill 55, residential district speed monitoring. We passed that. Yay. Well done, everybody. House Bill 58, paratransit, interjurisdictions. We're going to keep working on this. Delegate Healy is open to continuing to explore options. And I think Delegate Odom might get pulled into that conversation too, because he was interested. And dealing with Mako's objections, I think, is important to resolve. House Bill 107, intelligent speed assistance, Governor Delegate Allen. Delegate Allen will meet with Patrick and MVA and whoever else is needed, and also check on the outcome of the Senate crossfile and keep working on that to refine it as needed. We'll come back. House Bill, and we passed House Bill 177 as well. Passed two bills. All right, does everybody have their marching orders? I want to thank you all. I want to thank our guests. Thanks so much to Patrick and to Livka for keeping us moving. You guys are the best. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody.